Love Me Wrong by Valeria del Carmen. I sat on the floor, listening to the outskirts of a world I avoided. My eyes were vaguely skimming through the pages of a book as my thoughts wandered to the day after tomorrow, when my Aunt Sara and cousin Carlos would leave for the Netherlands for an unknown period. My mind had been attempting to prepare myself for their departure, knowing that I ought to surpass this heavy feeling in my chest that made it difficult for me to breathe. Through literature and imaginary worlds, I overcame the problems in my life. However, this type of pain was challenging to dissolve. I lived alone with my mother on the 7th floor of an apartment in Santo Domingo. Ever since I can recall, it's always been the two of us in a tidy, silent, empty house, contrasting the loud, abundant, enormous, happy families in Latin America. We never classified ourselves as a stereotypical Nicaraguan family that makes huge celebrations with friends and family, staying awake until sunrise with joyous waves of laughter, blasting cheerful music, and drinking alcohol to cut the tension in the air. My existential crisis was soon interrupted as I heard the sound of keys opening the front door. My mom's coming earlier than usual, I thought to myself as I exited my room to greet her after a long day of not seeing her. In a fleeting, unnoticed moment, the comforting warmth of daylight was replaced by the crisp, indifferent, empty, starry nights that left a void in the sky. My mom hugged me from behind and planted a light kiss on my cheek. "Was your day at school good, sweetie?" she asked me with weary, tired eyes that were disguised with a pleasant smile. I found it intriguing how, unlike other adults that bled emotions through their facial expressions, my father swiftly masked their feelings and bottled everything in. It was exasperating, failing to understand the thoughts that underwent through people's minds. I nodded in reassurance and sat across from the dining table with her. It was late in the evening, about 8 p.m. Most of the time I had lunch and dinner alone, my only company being a book. Loneliness wasn't an unpleasant feeling that left a bitter taste as many people believed it did. God, I wouldn't even call myself lonely for the sake of it. Being alone was part of my daily routine to clear my thoughts and empty my mind. However, at that time, not even loneliness had allowed me to hold a grip over my emotions. My loved ones are leaving me, were incessant thoughts that wandered through my mind for the next 2 days that followed. My relatives were a small, reserved group of people I barely communicated with. Family members who I truly adored were leaving the country, and it was devastating enough. However, the universe made a conspiracy against me and added a socio-political crisis in the country to worsen my affliction. I dreaded for the day to come, and, unfortunately, it came sooner than expected. My mother and I found ourselves waiting at the front of the airport with gifts in our hands, as I yearned for this unpleasant event to end. During that evening, the airport was filled with a diverse crowd that made me unceasingly anxious, as my mind drifted to my nasty habit of overthinking. For a place that felt hot like hell, the wind crashed incessantly against my hair, and a shiver ran down my spine, as a cold atmosphere was met with the warmth of seeing my aunt and cousin for the last time. When we met each other face to face, I couldn't help but for hot tears to pour down my face as we embraced each other in a tight hug. Despair and anguish never bred clear thinking or rationality within me. I never wanted to let go. "We will miss you so much, Tusita." My family members called me Tusita, as a nickname, meaning algo lindo, in whatever language they made up. "Don't worry, sweetie," my aunt said as she broke the hug. "We will see each other next summer." Perhaps in my dreams, I could advance time and be transported to the happy day when the airport stairs cease to represent bittersweet farewells, and will come to mean a reunion that would last a lifetime. But goodbyes always made me uncomfortable, like thoughts, words, or anything that wasn't meant to last. As 3 years passed after my cousin and aunt's departure, I noticed subtle changes within my character that made me self-conscious about my behavior. The reckless, impulse-driven girl with no filter was briskly replaced by a calculating, reserved, and distant person that I barely recognized anymore. I was becoming my self-fulfilled prophecy, and I followed the same dangerous path that my family was chained to: isolation. It was quite ironic how I wanted to become a cheerful, fun, exciting person that embodied Latino culture. However, I was disappointed with the outcome of my true colors. Life was unraveling, escaping, and draining through my careless fingertips. My abuelita Yoli used to tell me, isolation isn't safety, it's suicide. Las personas hasta de las piedras necesitan. Meaning that people had to socialize with others to find true happiness, since no amount of comfort could replace the loving feeling you're given from those around you. The shame always comes at the worst times, I thought to myself as I stared at the breathtaking night with tired eyes from my balcony. My family didn't love me wrong for lacking expressive emotions to reveal their affection. There wasn't a default way to represent Latin American culture. I was certainly not mistaken for having an outcast family. A calm feeling felt heavy in my chest, and I suppose I should have thought it was funny, or even weird. But the idea made me feel sick to my stomach, in that brief, fleeting moment between consciousness and sleep.